Welcome back to Valley News Now. I'm Adam Shelf, and today I'm joined via Zoom with the voice of the RedHawks, Jack Michaels. And Jack, what a busy few days for you, just all over the place this weekend, and one of many stops for you, a tough trip for the RedHawks against a very good Kane County team, dropping that games 2-1. And I know I was down there Sunday night, and it looked like a Rolling Stones concert was in town. How about the crowd they're getting down there in Geneva, Illinois?
Adam, great to see you. And it was the 3-game series at Kansas City, and then the 4-game series at Kane County. And then on top of everything else, they had 9,000 people there Saturday night. Turns out when you give away Taylor Swift tickets, that tends to boost some excitement and attendance as well. It was a fireworks night, Taylor Swift ticket giveaway night, and it's such a beautiful ballpark and stadium anyway. It was wild stuff, and the RedHawks fell short. It was a quick game, but yeah, tough series. Dropped 3 of 4 from Kane County, and now the second season starts.
Yeah, Jack, and one thing I think worth noting, too, is RedHawks resting some of their big guys. And so, that could definitely go differently had they maybe played some of their guys that rightfully so they want to rest right now. One of the first things I noticed, no Sam Dexter in the lineup, but here we are. This is the second season, as you said, and the one that really counts. And so how is the team looking as they prepare for these really you can't afford to lose any more series. It's win or go home now.
Yeah, Adam, no question. And throughout all your shows this summer on RedHawks baseball, you probably spent more time talking to either me or Chris Coast about maybe some of the guys he doesn't have as opposed to the guys that he does. And yeah, Sam was out of the lineup the other day. He was a little under the weather, but he bounced back to get a little bit of action, pinch running on Sunday, and he'll be good to go. So Sam is all great. The captain's good. The problem is maybe with some of the other guys that you're hoping to get back. The RedHawks here down the stretch, and not even down the stretch, I think for a good chunk of a month and a half, if not more, without Dylan Thomas. They're one, major league veteran bat, and that wrist had just been a bugaboo this year for Dylan. And man alive, I just hope he can get that fixed and feeling better. So baseball can still be a big part, which it will be, of his livelihood. But as far as his availability in the postseason, that doesn't appear to be the case. Tyler Grauer, from the pitching standpoint, we threw a little bit there in Kansas City, got a couple of innings work. The arm didn't. Oh, there you go. The arm. Sorry about that, guys. We're in a hotel room, and it said the arm got a little bit fatigued, and he was running with some still some pain that's been flaring up for him. And so I don't know the extent of his availability in the postseason. Davis Feldman would be a promising node. Feldy coming off and getting the clear to pitch, and we saw him get some work in Kansas City, got some work in Kane County. In fact, got a win in relief in that 12-8 win the RedHawks had on Friday night. So, Saturday night, I should say. So, we wish, Adam, they'd be full strength, but they won't be full strength into the postseason. So you've got to kind of dance with the ones you got, and what they've got is a team that can still make noise and do damage and pitch it and hit it and all of that. It just you wish you had all your guns heading into the postseason. They're going to be a little bit thin, but you know what? Everybody's got a little thinness somewhere on their roster.
Especially this time of the year. It's a battle of attrition. Just a quick look at the standings. You can see that the only team that didn't have an over 500 record going into the postseason is the Explorers. Do you think that represents an easier matchup for the RedHawks, or do you think that, you can't really believe the standings, especially this time of year?
I like the last statement you just said, Adam, because, yes, Sioux City just never played above 500 this year. In fact, the last time we were here, and that's where I'm at today in Sioux City, the last time we were here, I left that press box, and man alive, the season had ended for Sioux City there. They were kind of down in the dumps. They hadn't played well that weekend. It just wasn't looking good. And then they went up north of the border and took care of Winnipeg, and looked impressive doing so, and they've kind of played good baseball since, obviously, and earned that fourth spot. And the guy the Red Hawks will go up against in game one, Austin Drury, he's faced the Red Hawks 3 times this year. Now, even though he has no decision against them, they're really good numbers. You know, a sub-3 ERA. And the Red Hawks will face another good lefty in game two named Jared Weatherby. And, you know, John Nagowski is still a former big leaguer that's doing damage. In his final game of the 2024 regular season against Cleburne, Nagowski hit not one, not two, but 3 home runs and drove in a ton. And, you know, they've got weapons. You know, Daniel Lingua can steal a base. Scott Oda's coming on a little bit for Sioux City. Nagowski's a big hitter. They've got Justin Connell. They've added some pieces. So this team that was sub 500 or at 500 this year is not really indicative of the team I think the Red Hawks will see in the postseason, best out of 3, because it's, you know, the old adage of it's not who you play, but when you play them. Well, the Red Hawks are playing a team that probably is got a second chance on life in the season, in the postseason. B, they're playing good baseball, and C, they've got starters that have been effective against Fargo-Moorhead this year. So if you're Sioux City, you're probably feeling okay about entering this postseason. Game one in a best of 3, Adam, as you know, it's a must. This isn't the games. This isn't 7-game series, you know, where you can afford to maybe let one go and bounce back and play, you know, even it up, and then that pivotal game. There's none of that talk. This is every game is a must game, and Fargo-Moorhead needs to. Boy, if they can get game one, obviously, that game two on Friday night in Fargo would be a monster.
And you mentioned Nagowski there, just for some context. Guy played all 100 games and finished with a 346 average on the year. So that's just screams former big leaguer. Big guy in the lineup that they're going to have to worry about. And as far as you look at the rest, and I'm going to pull up the this for our viewers here, just taking a look at the Miles Wolf Cup playoffs bracket here. So at the bottom corner here, we're looking at the Red Hawk series with Sioux City, and then things get really interesting because you're either going to get Sioux Falls, who's kind of had a stranglehold a lot of the year on that first place, or you're getting a rematch with Evan Alexander. Now, I don't want to it's win one game at a time, right? But I think it's fair to talk about what the road would even look like back to a championship series. And so when you kind of look at what that could be, Jack, just what are your thoughts about what the road to the Miles Wolf Cup would look like in 2024 here?
So many people have asked me when they looked at the AA playoff structure and thought, okay, so you have 6 teams in a division, 4 make it. Okay, we all know that. And then the structure they do it, number 1, whoever wins it, they get to choose who they play first. And so many people are coming up to me going, how does the number 1 seed choose to play the number 2 in the first round of the playoffs? Like, that doesn't make sense, does it? Well, technically it does. I think it became geographical. I think for Winnipeg, instead of saying, you know what, we're going to play Sioux City out of the gate. Well, that's a long travel, you know, Winnipeg to Sioux City. So I think the fact that Winnipeg has fared well against Sioux Falls, and you take into account that travel they would have had, it didn't shock me that Winnipeg chose Sioux Falls to play first and then made the Red Hawks, you know, play Sioux City. That said, the road, you know, again, you got to get through the X's. These 2 teams, Fargo-Moorhead and Sioux City, they've had, we use the term battle and war and all this in return for the sports. Well, technically it's not, but these 2 teams have emptied out. There's no love lost between Sioux City and Fargo-Moorhead. I mean, these 2 teams, Sioux City's got some great guys, but they've also got a couple that have instigated some things, and the Red Hawks have retaliated, and we've had that kind of mix this year, and I hope it's a good, clean game, just baseball being played, but you know, it hasn't been sometimes this year. We've had bench clears, we've had standoffs, we've had chippiness, we've had ejections, we've had suspensions. So that's what Sioux City and Fargo-Moorhead is. So if you get through that, Winnipeg or Sioux Falls, which poison would you like to take a taste of? You got Sioux Falls with the Ty Colbreths and Tanner Browns that have locked up the Redhawks before. They're swinging it fairly well, but their pitching has been able to keep the Redhawks, these couple starters, in check. And then Winnipeg, who's had, the only team in the league with a sub-4 earned run average, and they've got the best pitcher in the league. Maybe between Joey Matulovic and Ty Colbreth of Sioux Falls. Joey Matulovic has been a strikeout king, a wins man, tough to touch, and Landon Barassa is another guy for Winnipeg that throws that he's tough to really get runs off of. He slowly carves you up, and that's just the Winnipeg pitching. The Winnipeg lineup, Max Murphy is back to his self. Dason Cruz is like he can fall out of bed and hit 340, and that's just a couple of guys. Miles Symington, the RedHawks Sioux City series, I love it. Oh, there we go, because of how crazy that series is, but and has been. But the fact that Winnipeg and Sioux Falls, that is in a short porch in Sioux Falls to start. We'll see who fares out of that one. I don't know if there's an easy path. The West has kind of chewed each other up a little bit this year. That's why you see 1 through 4 in this postseason. 1 took 2, and you shouldn't be surprised about that. These teams have all kind of knocked each other around. There were 0 secrets between Winnipeg, Sioux Falls, Fargo-Moorhead, Sioux City. No secrets. Everybody knows what everybody does. Everybody knows what everybody has, and the rest is just playing ball.
And then you look at the East, and Railroaders, a team that in recent years, frankly, hasn't been to this level of ball. This year, about the best team all year, getting 60 wins. Kane County, it seems like everybody, when you look up and down that lineup, is batting in the low to mid threes. Unbelievable depth in a combination of power. And then you talk about the home field advantage, the crowd they can draw. The Chicago Dogs, a team with the capacity to get hot. And the Dog Counts, who've been another team kind of up on the up and up this year, hot right now, winners of 7 of their last 10. If you really had to, let's say, put those teams in order, leaving the standings out of it, how would you rank those teams out east 1 to 4?
I mentioned the last time we were in Oconomowoc to our folks in Lake Country, and mind you, Adam, their ballpark is a porch. And I get both teams play for it, but they fit it well. The center field is like 370, so they've got the big bats to get that done. If I'd rank them 1 to 4, I think Cleburne's a true one. They can hit it, they can pitch it. They've got mojo. They put their foot on the pedal. Cleburne to me is 1. I don't sleep on Lake Country. We just saw Kane County. I think they're top heavy in their lineup. They've got some good hitters. You mentioned how many 300 hitters that Kane County has. That Cornelius Randolph. You can start going through the list of that one and see what they've been able to do. George Samus is a really savvy manager. He knows how to manipulate Kane County's arms in the bullpen. I think is going to keep them alive. The RedHawks saw that. They're rolling out AAA, AA guys that have good experience. They're strong on the backside. So I would go Cleburne 1. Chicago, to me, Jeff Isom, how about that? Former RedHawk pitcher in his first year as a manager. Here's a team that, to me, maybe has the player of the year in Jacob Teeter. He and John Nagowski, you mentioned earlier with Sioux City, have been neck and neck right there in the batting average. But Teeter really is just one of the most potent hitters and pure hitters we've seen. They've got, I think, 4 guys that have hit 20-plus home runs for Chicago. Their ballpark is conducive to that, but I can't just make that excuse. They're hitting the ball hard. Boy, I like Cleburne as a clear-cut 1, and Kane County and Chicago, to me, are where they left in those standings, almost neck and neck. But again, I know it's a vague answer, but Lake Country is my sleeper. That is my sleeper. It was my sleeper, Adam, a few weeks ago, and it continues to be my sleeper. Don't sleep on Lake Country. That team has got who knows what. And in their first year, just don't sleep on Lake Country.
And I just got to say, Teeter, 28 home runs. That's just kind of mind-numbing. That kind of power. I mean, there's only 100 games, for crying out loud. He did play all 100, but that's just preposterous to be able to. That's one every four at bats to be a homer. Not bad, Jack.
Right. Well, yeah, Adam, and Ryan Hernandez of Lake Country, these two guys, we mentioned John Nagowski, everybody seems to have one guy that you've got to be really concerned about. Some have more than one, but yeah, Jacob Teeter is quite the weapon for the Chicago Dogs. And Narciso Crook is another guy that can. Dusty Stroop is a guy out of Chicago. These guys all have 20-plus home runs, and Teeter with 28. Plus, he's an RBI machine. He's a left-handed batter, long and loose, and he can hurt you. Yeah, I don't. We'll see. I mean, Cleburne can knock the ball out of the park too. I don't know what that East is going to do. The travel is a part there. Are you going to fly to Cleburne or are you busing to Cleburne? My guess is whoever plays may fly. I don't know. It's a bus league, but that's the juggernaut. That's down there in that Dallas, Frisco, Texas area. So if you are, they open up with Chicago. Is Chicago going to fly? Is Cleburne going to fly back home after game one? I don't know if that makes a major impact, but RedHawks have been on the road a long time. We'll see how the road affects Fargo-Moorhead in game one against Sioux City. Now the RedHawks have just had to bus, 9 hours here, 8 hours back, that kind of thing. What if that trip is 15 and you're getting off a bus and playing? So I don't know if that's going to be a factor, Adam, with the East being Cleburne, down there in Dallas, and teams busing and or flying. I'm assuming maybe a flight is going to be involved, I think.
Now, Jack, you kind of mentioned the long ball there, and the RedHawks, interestingly enough, like their team lead for homers is they got 3 different guys with 9. You look at the leaders in the league, like you mentioned, Chicago, 3 guys with over 20. Kind of a unique build for the RedHawks. Dare I say, not a team predicated on just booming you with homers, but they find there are other ways to beat you, obviously. Championship caliber team. But for the opponents, if they're looking at the RedHawks roster up and down right now, what players do you think they're most concerned about and why?
I think they're worried about the top of the lineup. I think they're worried about, a guy like Juan Fernandez, who since moving to the top of the order in the batting lineup, and I get it, you only bat there once to start a game, but Juan Fernandez is a good bat man. Last 2 games, come down a little bit against Kane County, but Juan Fernandez is as good of a hitter as you're going to find in the American Association. So I'd imagine they're concerned about him and getting on base and making things happen. Alec Oland, since coming back to the RedHawks, who the Hawks last year was away and the RedHawks re-signed him here. Since coming back in his 28 games or so he's played with the RedHawks, it has been nothing but production. So there's your 1-2 punch. Now, Ismael Alcantara, we all know Izzy, and Izzy can hit for power, can hit for average. Obviously, he's a threat on the base pass. So there's your first 3 in a lineup. And then you've got the Drew Wards and Marcus Chews, that hopefully can drive in runs. And when you look at the makeup of the RedHawks lineup, and to me, what may or may not, it may be the difference, Adam, in the postseason, are the Sam Dexters or Michael Hallquist or C.J. Valdez's or the Ben Laborsi's, who's ever in that bottom of Kona Quiggles, who's ever put in that bottom of the Peter Brookshaw in that 6 through 9 of the lineup. So it's easy to say Juan will get his hits and Alec will do his work and Drew will drive in runs and Marcus Chew will do his stuff. To me, it's 6, 7, 8, 9 in that lineup. You mentioned they're not a home run hitting team, and they can hit home runs, but they can get base knocks when the RedHawks are going well. They're packing hits together, stealing bases, sometimes double stealing, guys in motion, running bases. That's Fargo-Moorhead RedHawks baseball. So other teams, I'm sure's key is going to be, minimizing the Fernandezes of the world, the pitching around the Drew Wards when they can, all of that, and then just locking up the bottom of the lineup, making sure the bottom doesn't flip to the top, because if it flips to the top, that's when the RedHawks are in business.
Oh, Jack, thank you so much for joining us on RedHawks Weekly for in-depth look at the playoff picture. Anything else you want to add before we let you hopefully go get some rest?
Yeah, no problem. And I'm sorry about my phone flipping a couple of times. I'm in a less than 5-star hotel without a mic stand. Anyway, that's okay, Adam. What I would leave with today is that it does come down to pitching. You and I have talked a lot of offense here on this segment, but it does come down to pitching. And the Niall Ball, Colton Davis, hopefully can establish good starts in the postseason. Orlando Rodriguez, and then that bullpen has got to be studied. So the Jake Dykhoffs and Garrett Alexanders and Parker Harms and Alex Dubourds, these guys are going to be counted on. If you and I are talking in a week's time about round 2 of the postseason, it will be because the starting pitching of Niall Ball and Colton Davis and the bullpen. That plain and simple. It's as simple as that. Love talking offense, but it still comes down to pitching and defense.
I couldn't agree more, Jack, especially talking about those arms getting healthy at the right time. I think that's the ultimate X factor against the X's. We'll see how it goes. Have a good call. Get some rest. I know it's been a busy time for you. Just a great tour of the Midwest, so I hope you at least have been eating well. Thank you, Jack. Like I said, have a great call, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in. That's all for now on RedHawks Weekly. Stay with us. We'll have Russ Thomas joining us for an update on the weather in just a little bit. For now, Adam Shelf with Jack Michaels signing off on RedHawks Weekly. Thanks a lot, Jack. Good to see you.
Thank you, Adam.